In this heartwarming tale from Legends of Africa, Folktales and Myths, a young prince sheds his royal identity and lives as a humble potter to discover love untainted by status or riches. As he trades silk robes for dusty sandals, sweeping floors and shaping clay, he forms unexpected friendships and encounters a mysterious girl who sees beyond appearances. The prince pretends to be a poor potter to find true love is a touching story of humility, hidden identity, and true connection, proving that the most precious treasures are often found where you least expect them. Adesua was not just any girl. She was strong both in body and in spirit. Every morning before the rooster crowed, she was already awake. She swept the front of their small mud house, fetched water from the village well, and cleaned her mother's room. Her mother had been sick for a long time, and Adesua took care of her completely. There was no father, no brother, no sister, just the two of them. Though life was hard, Adesua never complained. She walked with her head high, her shoulders straight, and her eyes clear. People often said she was beautiful, with soft brown eyes and a warm smile. But what made her truly special was her kind heart. Even when she had little, she gave to others. If a hungry child passed by her house, Adesua would give part of her food without thinking twice. Still, not everyone appreciated her goodness. Some people looked down on her because she was poor. The worst of them all was Lady Moreo, a wealthy woman who lived near the market square. Lady Moreo often mocked Adesua in front of others. She would say things like, "Look at that girl pretending to be proud when all she owns is that ragged dress." Or, "She should thank the heavens if anyone ever agrees to marry her." People laughed at Lady Moreo's words, but Adesua never let them see her pain. Inside, she sometimes cried. She missed her mother's old laughter, her health, and the days when they could both dance in the rain. Now, all she had were silent nights and long, tiring days. But Adesua kept going. Each time someone laughed at her, she told herself, "I am more than what they see." In the market, Adesua worked part-time, helping an old seller of vegetables. She earned a few coins a day, just enough to buy food and herbs for her mother. When she was not working or caring for her mother, she sat by the fire at night and sang quietly. Her songs were soft and sweet, full of love and hope. Some children would sneak close to listen, and even adults passing by would pause, touched by her voice. The village elders often said that Adesua had an old soul, wise beyond her years. She didn't chase after gold or pretty clothes. She didn't join the gossiping girls who sat by the well. She didn't dream of princes or palaces. All she wanted was to see her mother smile again and to live a peaceful life without shame or hunger. Sometimes, she wondered what it would be like to live without worry. What if she could sleep in, eat full meals, and wear clean dresses every day? But those thoughts didn't stay long. Adesua believed in working hard and being kind, even when life was unfair. One day, as she carried a heavy basket of firewood back home, a group of boys laughed and pointed at her. "Why work so hard? You'll never be more than a poor girl with calloused hands," they jeered. She didn't reply. She simply walked past them, her steps steady. She knew the truth. Her hands might be rough, but her heart was soft. And in this world, that mattered more. People began to notice. Some quietly respected her strength. A few women started helping her with small gifts, extra food, or cloth for her mother. Even the old man she worked for treated her like a daughter. But Adesua stayed the same, humble, gentle, and full of grace. She had no idea that soon her life would change. She didn't know that someone was watching her from afar. Someone who saw more than just a poor maid. Someone who would test her heart, shake her world, and make her believe in love again. But for now, Adesua remained the same brave girl, walking through the village with quiet strength and silent dreams. Tunde walked back through the busy market, carrying his empty clay bag. He had just finished his errand, but something felt different. His feet moved slower. His mind was full. He kept thinking about the girl in the orange wrapper. He didn't know her name yet. He had only seen her for a moment. She was sweeping in front of a shop, quiet and calm, like the world didn't bother her. When she looked up at him, her eyes were soft. Not scared, not rude, just gentle, like she had seen him before, even though they'd never met. Later that evening, Tunde sat outside Baba Danjuma's pottery shop, mixing water into some clay. His hands were working, but his thoughts were far away. Femi, his talkative friend, noticed something right away. "Why are you smiling like you just ate a sweet mango?" Femi asked, bumping him with his elbow. "I'm not smiling," Tunde said, looking away. Femi laughed. "You are. Who is the girl?" Tunde shook his head and chuckled. "I don't know her name." Femi leaned closer. "So you like her?" Tunde looked at the sky for a moment before answering. "Maybe, but I want to wait. I like to do things step by step." Femi blinked. "Step by step." "Yes," Tunde said. "Not rush. Just watch. Learn. Then talk when the time is right." Femi raised his hands and grinned. "Ah, Prince of Planning. Okay, but don't wait too long. Somebody else might talk to her first." Tunde laughed. "I'll take my chance when the time is right." That night, after they ate dinner, Tunde went for a short walk. The moon was round and bright in the sky. As he passed by some houses, he heard a soft song. Someone was singing. He followed the sound quietly, and there she was, the same girl. She was sitting beside an old woman, holding her hand. A small lantern gave a warm light around them. The girl was singing gently, brushing the woman's hair. It was a simple song, soft like the wind, but it made something warm grow in Tunde's chest. He stayed in the shadows, not making a sound. He didn't want to interrupt. He just watched. She looked kind, not just with her face, but with her whole self. The way she cared for the old woman, the way she sang, the way she stayed calm. It all felt special. Tunde didn't know her story, but he wanted to. The next few days he saw her again. Sometimes she was fetching water. Other times she was selling small goods or helping someone. She never looked around much. She was always busy, always helping. Tunde never spoke to her. Not yet. But every time he saw her, he felt the same warm feeling inside. At the shop, he told Femi, "She's not just pretty. She's strong and kind." "Then go and talk to her now," Femi said. Tunde shook his head. "Not yet. I want to understand her first. I want to know who she is before I say anything. Some things take time." Femi rolled his eyes. "You and your time. I just hope she's still single by the time you talk." Tunde smiled. "I'll know when it's right." He didn't know when that day would come, but he was patient. He watched from a distance, waiting for the right moment. Because this time, he didn't just want to meet a girl. He wanted to meet someone special. The right way. Tunde woke up early each morning to sweep the front of Baba Danjuma's pottery shop. The old man was already awake by then, sitting on a wooden stool with a small cup of hot tea in his hand. His beard was white like cotton, and his eyes were kind but sharp, like they had seen many years and many stories. "Morning, Baba," Tunde would say. "Morning, my boy," Baba Danjuma always replied with a smile. "The clay won't shape itself." Tunde liked working at the shop. The smell of fresh earth, the sound of spinning wheels, and the feel of soft clay in his hands made him feel calm. Baba Danjuma didn't shout or rush. He moved slowly, carefully. Like every pot he made had its own story to tell. One morning, Tunde was shaping a bowl, but the edges kept bending in. He sighed, ready to smash it and start over. But Baba Danjuma stopped him. "Don't rush to break what you can still shape." Tunde looked up. "But it's not coming out right." Baba nodded. "That's how life is. Sometimes it bends. You don't throw it away. You press, you turn, you try again." Tunde blinked, then smiled a little. Baba wasn't just talking about clay. Another time, Tunde was carrying some pots outside to dry. He walked too fast and dropped one by mistake. It cracked loudly on the ground. "I'm sorry, Baba," Tunde said quickly, ashamed. Baba Danjuma walked over, looked at the broken pot, then looked at Tunde. "Next time, walk like the pot is your baby," he said with a chuckle. If you rush, you'll miss the beauty in small steps. Tunde laughed, but he remembered that lesson. After that day, he carried things with more care. Not just pots, but even his words. Baba Danjuma didn't talk too much, but when he did, his words stayed in Tunde's heart. He told him things like, "Clay listens to the hands that respect it. Silence teaches more than noise. Some pots look plain but hold the sweetest soup." Every lesson, every quiet moment, helped Tunde grow, not just as a helper, but as a person. In the evenings, when the sun was low and the fire for baking pots burned bright, Tunde and Baba would sit outside the shop. Sometimes they talked, other times they just listened to the night. One evening, Baba asked him, "You have the hands of a prince. Why are you working like a poor man?" Tunde froze for a second. He looked at Baba's face, but the old man was smiling, his eyes twinkling. "I'm just learning, Baba," Tunde said softly. Baba nodded. "Good, because before you rule the people, you must first know how they live." Tunde didn't answer, but in his heart, he knew Baba saw more than he let on. And maybe that was okay, because here, in this little shop with mud and fire, he was learning lessons no palace could ever teach. Lessons about patience, about care, about seeing the value in what others call small. Every day with Baba Danjuma was like shaping clay, slow, steady, and full of hidden beauty. And deep down, Tunde was grateful. He was becoming more than just a prince in hiding. He was becoming a man. The market was busy. People were selling fruits, calling out prices, and laughing. Tunde was walking through with some pots in his arms when something bad happened. Jide and his gang stepped in front of him. "You again?" Jide said, crossing his arms. "You've been here for days and you've not paid anything." "I don't have money to give you," Tunde said quietly. "That's not how it works," one of the boys growled. "Everyone pays if they want peace here." Before Tunde could move, they pushed him hard. His pots crashed to the ground and broke. Dust flew into the air. People around the market stopped and stared. Everything went quiet. Tunde sat on the ground, holding his side. He didn't fight back. Just then, a girl stepped out from the crowd. "Leave him alone," she said loudly. Everyone turned. It was Adesua. She marched up to Jide and stood between him and Tunde. "Why are you bullying someone who hasn't done anything to you?" Jide laughed, but it was a small, nervous laugh. "We don't argue with girls." "Of course not," Adesua said. "Because if you did, everyone would see how weak you really are." The boys didn't know what to say. People in the market were watching. Jide muttered something and walked away with his gang. Adesua knelt beside Tunde and helped brush the dust off his shirt. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine. Thank you," Tunde said, still surprised. "You're the boy who passes my stall all the time, aren't you?" she said, looking at him. Tunde looked shocked. "You saw me?" "Of course I did," Adesua said. "You think you're invisible, but I see you. Every day." Tunde looked down. "I wasn't trying to be weird. I just didn't know how to talk to you." She smiled. "You're not weird. But next time, say hello." "I'm Tunde," he said softly. "I'm Adesua," she replied. They smiled at each other. Then she looked serious. "Why didn't you fight back? They were wrong to do that. You shouldn't let anyone treat you that way." Tunde looked away. "I didn't want trouble. I don't like people looking at me too much." Adesua nodded slowly. "It's okay to avoid trouble, but don't let people think they can walk all over you. Bullies like Jide only get brave when they think no one will stop them." Tunde nodded. He was quiet, but her words stayed in his heart. The market noise started again, but for Tunde, the world felt different now. He had finally spoken to her, and for the first time she saw him, not just the dust or the broken pots. She saw him. Many days passed after the day in the market. Tunde and Adesua kept seeing each other, sometimes by the well, sometimes near the firewood stall, and sometimes in the square, where children played and old women sold yam and beans. First, they just smiled. Then they started talking. Adesua showed Tunde many things about living in the village. She taught him how to stretch his coins so they could last longer. Don't buy things just because you're hungry now, she said. Think about tomorrow too. She also showed him where to buy cheap but good food, how to stay out of trouble with people like Jide, and how to laugh even when things were hard. Tunde listened carefully. He helped her too. He helped carry water from the stream. He fetched firewood and even helped her sell oranges one day. People noticed how he always smiled when she was near. His smile was wide, like a little boy who just got his favorite toy. One day, as they sat on a big stone under a mango tree, Tunde asked, "Why do you always help others?" Adesua looked up at the tree. "Because I know how it feels when no one helps you." Tunde looked at her, but said nothing. He understood more than she knew. That evening, Adesua had to deliver herbs to Lady Moreo, a rich woman in the village with many servants and fine clothes. She lived in a big house near the edge of the square. Adesua knocked at her door. "Come in," Lady Moreo said sharply. Adesua stepped in, carrying a basket. "Here are the herbs, Ma." Lady Moreo looked at her with a sneer. "You again? Still wearing that same orange wrapper?" Adesua kept her head down. "Yes, Ma." Lady Moreo rolled her eyes. "Don't you get tired of chasing dreams? No rich man will ever want a girl like you." Adesua said nothing. Lady Moreo laughed meanly. "Only poor boys like that Potter boy will ever come near you. That's the kind of man you'll get. One with dust in his hair and nothing in his pocket." Adesua's eyes watered, but she didn't cry there. Lady Moreo waved her hand. "Now go. Don't bring your sad face here again." Later that night, Adesua sat by the small stream. Tunde came by, carrying a small clay pot. He noticed she looked quiet. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Adesua shrugged. "Just a long day." Tunde sat beside her. "You look like someone hurt your heart." She didn't speak at first. Then she sighed. Lady Moreo said something again. Tunde frowned. "What did she say?" "She said no good man will want me because I'm poor," Adesua said quietly. "That only boys like you will come close to me." Tunde's face grew still. "Boys like me?" Adesua looked at him. "She said you have nothing. That's the only reason I'll get your kind." Tunde was quiet. He looked into the water. "I'm sorry she said that," he whispered. Adesua smiled a little, but it was a sad smile. "You don't have to say anything." Tunde shook his head. "You deserve better. Not just better words, but better people." Adesua looked at him, surprised by how gentle his voice was. The night was quiet. Crickets chirped. The moon hung above them like a glowing drum. And for the first time, even after such cruel words, Adesua didn't feel so alone. That evening, Tunde sat outside the small room he rented behind Baba Danjuma's shop. The stars twinkled above, and a soft wind blew across the village. His friend Femi came running over, eating roasted corn. Femi sat beside him and asked with a grin, "So, are you going to tell me?" Tunde looked confused. "Tell you what?" Femi bumped him playfully with his elbow. "About her, the girl with the smile like sunshine." Tunde chuckled and looked away. "Her name is Adesua." "I know her name," Femi said with a laugh. "Everyone knows her name. But you smile like a goat eating a ripe banana every time she passes." Tunde laughed louder now. "Stop it, Femi." Tunde paused. He looked down at his hands, rough from working with clay. "She's kind," he said. "She helps people. She helped me. She didn't have to, but she did." Femi chewed his corn thoughtfully. "Then you should tell her." Tunde shook his head. "No, not yet. She doesn't even know who I really am." Femi frowned. "So what? You're not lying. You're just Tunde, right?" Tunde sat quietly and looked at the stars. From behind the window, Baba Danjuma listened quietly as he swept the floor. He didn't say anything, but a small smile appeared on his wrinkled face. He had noticed the way Tunde worked harder lately, how he sang while molding clay, how he asked about the best flowers in the market. Baba knew that kind of happiness, the kind that makes even hard work feel light. One quiet night, Akin sat outside near the edge of the village square. The sky was dark, and the stars were bright. He was on his way back from Baba Danjuma's shop when he saw Ade Sua across the street. She was holding a small bowl of food, her only meal for the day. Just then, a little boy ran up to her. His clothes were torn, and he looked very hungry. Without even thinking twice, Ade Sua knelt and gave the boy all her food. She smiled and rubbed his head as he ate quickly. Tunde watched from a distance, his heart full. He could hardly believe someone could be that kind when they had so little. Afterward, she walked slowly back to her small room. Akin followed quietly, staying in the shadows. Through her little window, he saw her sit beside her mother lying on a mat. Ade Sua took her mother's hand and began to sing. A sweet lullaby filled the air. Her voice was soft, like the night breeze, and her face glowed gently in the firelight. Akin didn't move. He just watched. In that quiet, flickering moment, he didn't see a poor village girl. He saw a queen. Not a queen made by gold or jewels, but a queen made of love, strength, and heart. And right then, Akin knew something deep inside him had changed. He was falling for her, for real. The days in the village were not always happy. Tunde tried to stay quiet and calm, but Jide was getting worse. He started laughing at Tunde in front of people. "Look at the new Potter boy," he shouted one day. "So quiet and weak." Tunde said nothing. Jide pushed him, kicked over his clay pots, and even threw sand at his face. People laughed. Some felt sorry, but no one stopped Jide. Then Jide started saying mean things about Ade Sua. "She thinks she's special," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "But no prince would ever want a poor girl like her." Tunde's hands balled into fists. His heart beat fast. He wanted to shout, to fight, to tell them all who he really was. But he didn't. If he told them he was the prince, everything would change. He couldn't risk it, not yet. He had to stay hidden until he was sure Ade Sua cared for him, not for a crown. So he walked away. But the whispers began. Why does he never fight back? Is he a coward? Why is he always with that Ade Sua girl? Tunde heard it all. He felt like a fire was growing in his chest. Still, he kept quiet. He helped Baba Danjuma. He walked Ade Sua home. He smiled even when it hurt inside. But one day, Jide went too far. He grabbed Ade Sua's basket and threw her oranges to the ground. She gasped. "Jide, stop." He laughed. "Go cry to your weak Potter friend." Tunde stepped forward. He didn't yell. He didn't swing his fists. But his voice was firm. His eyes were strong. "Pick them up," he said. The crowd went silent. Mothers paused with baskets on their heads. Children stopped playing. Even the old drummers went quiet. Then, Jide, angry that Tunde was challenging him in front of everyone, moved, he trying to swing a punch at Tunde. Tunde's hand caught Jide's wrist mid-swing, and in one smooth motion, he twisted and stepped aside, flipping Jide onto his back. Gently, but with undeniable force. Gasps rose like wind through dry leaves. Tunde didn't yell. He didn't curse. He simply stood tall, eyes locked on Jide, jaw set like stone. "Don't touch her again," he said, voice low but clear. Jide scrambled to his feet, shocked. His face burned red with anger, but his eyes showed fear. That move, that control, that calm. Tunde wasn't just some quiet Potter boy. He was trained. He was strong. He was dangerous. Jide blinked, now looking at him differently. Not as someone weak, but as someone hiding power. "You're not who you say you are," Jide muttered, backing away. Tunde said nothing. He just turned to Ade Sua, gently brushing dust off her wrapper, the way she once brushed dust from his shoulder. The crowd watched in silence. Even the birds above seemed to hold their breath. Ade Sua stared at him. "You fight like a soldier," she whispered. "I've had practice," he said quietly. She searched his face, unsure whether to feel proud, afraid, or amazed. Baba Danjuma stood in the corner of the market, arms crossed. He didn't say a word, but the slight smile tugging at his lips said everything. He knew. And now, maybe others would start to wonder too. But Akin didn't care. In that moment, all that mattered was her. And the promise he had silently made. Never again would she stand alone. The village was quiet that night. Crickets sang softly in the bushes. The moon hung high above, round and glowing like a silver lantern in the sky. Tunde and Adesua sat beneath the old tree by the stream, where the wind carried the scent of rain and wildflowers. The lantern between them flickered gently, casting warm light on her face. She held her knees close to her chest, her voice no louder than a whisper. "Even if the prince himself loved me," she said, eyes staring at the water, "I wouldn't believe it." Tunde turned slowly to her, heart suddenly heavy. "Why?" he asked, voice barely steady. She laughed softly, but there was no joy in it. "Because people like him, they don't see girls like me," she said. "We're just the dust beneath their boots. Forgotten, unseen." Her words pierced him deeper than any blade. He looked away, blinking fast. She didn't know she was sitting beside that very prince. She didn't know he saw her more clearly than anyone else ever had. He clenched his fists in the grass. "You deserve more than the love of a prince," he said suddenly, his voice thick. Adesua turned, surprised. "You deserve the kind of love that doesn't care about gold or titles," he continued. "The kind that sees your strength when no one's watching. The kind that knows how you give your last meal to a hungry child and sing to your mother so she can sleep." Her eyes widened. "You deserve a love that honors you, protects you, fights for you. And if I can be that love..." He paused. "If you'll let me, I want to be." For a moment there was silence, just the wind and the night creatures. Then her lips trembled, not with fear, but with something warmer, softer. She reached out, touched his hand, and slowly, she leaned her head on his shoulder, not like a girl leaning on a boy, but like someone finally finding a home. "I believe you, Tunde," she whispered. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in a long, long time, he felt whole. The night was still, but Femi's mouth was not. He sat cross-legged on the mat inside their tiny room, waving his hands as he talked. "You don't understand, Tunde, the way you look at her. And like a chicken that found corn after 1 week of hunger." Femi laughed loudly, slapping his thigh. Tunde, Akin, smiled, shaking his head, but his heart was light. "She's different," he said softly. Femi leaned in. "Different how?" "She sees me, not for what I have, not for what I don't. Just me," he replied. Femi nodded, his teasing fading into something more thoughtful. "You love her, right?" Akin didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the tiny window, where moonlight spilled in like silver dust. "I do," he said at last. There was a long pause. Then, without warning, the candle flickered. A shadow moved at the edge of the room. Femi sat up quickly. What was that? From the dark corner, a man stepped forward, tall, strong, with eyes sharp like a hawk's. His clothes blended with the night, but the royal insignia on his chest shone faintly under the moonlight. Kuan-lei. Akin stood up at once, every trace of Tunde the potter melting away. The guard bowed slightly. "Your Highness, forgive the intrusion." Femi's eyes widened. "Your what?" Kuan-lei continued, urgent. "The king. His health is failing. He has called for you. Now." Silence. The air in the room seemed to freeze. Akin's breath caught in his throat. "Failing?" he repeated, barely able to say it. Kuan-lei nodded. "The time has come." Akin turned to Femi, who looked like he had seen a ghost. Wait, Femi said, standing up too quickly. "What do you mean, Your Highness? Are you saying you're the prince?" Akin's eyes were full of sadness. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you, Femi. I needed to live freely just for a while, to know who I am without the crown." Femi blinked. "So all this time, you were just pretending? The clay, the firewood, the leaking roof. You chose all that?" "Yes," Akin said, stepping closer. Because it showed me what truly matters. It showed me Adesua. Femi's face softened slightly, but his mouth was still hanging open. Wow. So the prince came to the gutter to find love. Kunle stepped forward now, voice firm. You must come now, my prince. Every second counts. Akin nodded, but turned to Femi. Please, say nothing to anyone. Not yet. Femi nodded slowly. But, Adesua? Akin's eyes clouded. I'll send a message. When the time is right. Femi looked like he wanted to say more, but then just stepped back, quietly pressing his lips together. Akin picked up a small cloth bag and turned to Kunle. Let's go. Kunle pulled open the back door. The night swallowed them quickly.